Hey everyone, my name's Julia and welcome to my channel. So this is my first ever YouTube video. It's been something that I have been wanting to do for a while but never got around to doing. It's currently April 2020, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and so I thought, what better time to give this a go than now? So a bit of background to myself. My name's Julia, I'm 21 and I'm currently a third year medical student at a university in central London called King's College. So I thought I'd kickstart my first video talking about my experience leading up to and becoming a medical student. For any potential future medics out there, or anyone who's still a little bit on the fence and wants to know a little bit more about medicine as a course, because I myself know that I was very confused before applying and I wasn't sure what to expect. So hopefully this video helps. I'm going to start off by talking about what I think you should consider before applying. In secondary school, I myself was very much split between a range of different paths that I wanted to take, and I had loads of different phases, from wanting to study film and media to wanting to study business to even drama at one point, before I finally settled for medicine. And I think for most people that are applying to medicine, that can be quite common because you need a decent set of grades at GCSE to apply, and so you have to be good at quite a lot of different subjects at the same time. And so that can make it quite tricky to know where exactly your passion lies. So for me, it wasn't a decision that I took lightly, and it's not one that I regret so far anyway. Before applying to medicine, I would go to open days and I tried to ask people who were already medical students how they knew that they wanted to study medicine. And when you ask this question to medics, I feel like a lot of the time you'll hear things like,
I always knew that I wanted to be a doctor.
Or,
since I was little, this was always my dream.
Or,
ever since I was in my mum's womb, this was going to be my destiny.
Which is great for some people, but not helpful for other people like me who can't make a decision about anything. So something that really helped me to decide if medicine was a career that I was interested in was work experience. And that's also something that medical schools love to see and love to ask you about in interviews as well. You'll often hear rumours that the more work experience placements you have, the better. And looking back, I don't think that's necessarily the case. So long as you're able to demonstrate that you've taken something out of the 1 or 2 placements that you have done and you've properly reflected on what you've learned and recognised that it's something that you would really want to do, then I think that's okay. So many people would tell me in year 13 that like their friend had 8 or 9 placements, which I think is ridiculous, because where do you find the time for that? And secondly, what's the point? I would recommend trying to get 1 placement at a hospital and 1 placement at perhaps a GP practice, and that's honestly enough, just to expose yourself to the environments and see for yourself if it's something that you can imagine yourself working in for the rest of your career, or if it's something that you don't necessarily like, which is also fine. So as I said, I really wasn't sure if medicine was something that I wanted to do, and so I did quite a few different placements in different areas. So I did 2 weeks as a teacher's assistant, I did 1 week in the Bank of England, and for me it was finally when I did my work experience at a hospital that I realised that it was fun, I enjoyed it, and I liked the buzz, and I recognised that it was an environment that I thought I could really work in. And it was that finally pushed me to commit and apply to medicine. So I would recommend trying to get that work experience in, not only for yourself but for universities, and because it is so difficult to get, try and get on it as soon as you can. Another thing to consider about medicine is that it is a lifelong commitment. It's something that requires quite a lot of hard work and dedication for a long time, and it's a course and a profession that I've heard described to me in the past as a tunnel, in that it's 5 or 6 years of studying in a university. Straight after that you're whisked off to your foundation posts for 2 years, and then after that you are able to specialise in whatever you want, and it's pretty much all go, no stop. For many years you're always going to have something that you're working on or striving towards. So unlike other courses which are 3 years long, where you perhaps graduate and you don't necessarily know what job you want or where you're going into, medicine isn't like that. For me, that was a big pro to studying medicine. And so although you are stuck in this sort of tunnel, the way I see it is that you're always protected and you've always got somewhere to go to, and there's 100 different tracks that you can take and so many specialties that exist that you probably haven't even heard of yet. And you know that as soon as you finish university, you're a fully licensed doctor and you can start working from go. And even if you change your mind and you decide that you don't like working in a hospital or in a clinic, there's also the academic route that you can take, where There are so many different opportunities for research and teaching which are very open to medics because of the background of knowledge that we would have had throughout our course. And so, as cliched as it sounds, the possibilities are endless. On the flip side of that though, it is difficult and it is an investment. While other courses graduate after 3 years, for instance, you're left behind for another 2 or 3 years, potentially not having as much free time as people on other courses, shorter summer holidays, and all in all it can get quite tough. From my experience as a medical student, especially in my first year, I was on campus pretty much 5 days a week, which can get quite strenuous. So one important thing I think to consider is that you have to enjoy learning and you have to have a genuine interest for science, which I think is quite easy to develop, especially once you're exposed to so many different things in first year, like all the different systems. And I think perhaps that's why medical schools have such high entry requirements, because you want to be able to prove that you are motivated and you are dedicated. Ultimately, those difficult A-levels are what set you up for a huge volume of work that you get thrown at you in first year. I'm not gonna lie, for me, my first year was a little bit shambolic because I took a gap year, so I was slightly out of touch with revising. And I remember, especially towards exam season, it was a nightmare. And that's not to put anyone off at all, but just to be aware that there is an overload of information that you're gonna get, and you have to just accept that you're not even gonna know half of it because there is so much of it. It does take a while to get into the swing of it, and it is quite difficult to always stay on top of things. So as a person, you have to know that you are someone that is able to stay motivated and keep going even when it does get hard. On the plus side though, there are so many other people with you in the same year, in the same situation. So I think in my first year I had like 450 people around about in my year, and so we would revise together, share our sorrows, our stresses together, and it was actually good fun. And I always knew that the night before an exam, if I was getting stressed and crying, that there was probably someone out there crying with me. I'm kidding, I'm not. Jokes aside, although it is difficult, it is definitely manageable. And I've heard opinions from people in different courses who did an undergraduate degree before medicine who actually said that medicine is a lot easier, so maybe I'm just being a drama queen. But all in all, although it is a bit of a mental sacrifice, the way I see it, you have to sacrifice something in everything in order to get to where you want to be. Next, something that I remember being massively off-putting to me at the time was the length of the course. In the UK, medicine is 5 or 6 years, depending on where you apply. And for me, the thought of having all my friends graduate after 3 years and be able to start making money at the age of 21 while I'm going to be stuck at uni for another 3 years was no. And I remember it being a scary thought that while everyone is off making money, finding a job, that I'm going to be still stuck, racking up more debt, being stressed, and it just really wasn't a nice thought. But if there is one piece of advice I could go back and tell myself at the age of 17 when I applied, is that it honestly doesn't matter. Those 2 or 3 years are not going to make a difference at all, because in the long run, you're going to be working until retirement anyway. And when you think about it, it's actually a really good investment to make for that job security, because as soon as you graduate, you are a fully licensed doctor, and doctors are needed all over the world at all times. And so you're never gonna be stuck wondering, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go into? Like, you're guaranteed a job from August as soon as you graduate. On top of that, there are so many students who actually do a degree before they come into medicine, and so they're postgraduates, who are also having the time of their lives. And whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, so long as you're happy with where you end up at the end, those 2 or 3 years in between really don't matter, especially when you're a student. Another point to make is that the final years, so years 4 and 5, this might vary from uni to uni, are mainly clinical. You're on placement in a hospital or in a GP practice, and so it's not like you're stuck in a library 5 days a week cramming. You are actually gaining experience and preparing yourself to be able to work. Another thing that was really off-putting to me was a rumour that you probably hear a lot in secondary school, and that rumour is that medics don't have time to socialise because they're always busy revising and they're always stressed and they never go out and they're always drowning in work and they've got no social life. And to that rumour, I can definitely say it is not true at all. As a medic, you definitely do have spare time to go out and to socialise and to do everything else and really make the most of being a student. I'll admit, I myself had the belief that medics were like arrogant nerds with their noses in books 24/7. And oh my goodness, I couldn't be more wrong. Yes, we do have a lot of work, there's no denying that, but it is very doable. And so long as you stay organised on top of your lectures and make sure you know what you have to do when, you're fine, and you'll definitely find the time to go out. I myself am the least organised person I know, and so if I could do it, anyone can do it. Also, to add to that, Wednesday afternoons are universally timetabled to be free for all students of all courses, including medicine. Wednesday afternoons are designed for societies so that students can do society stuff, whether that's sports or any like recreational societies, which is really good because you know that at least once a week you have something to look forward to. And even if you're not part of a society, you can use that time to catch up on your work and do some more revision so that you then do have time to go out whenever you want. And so although the rumours and the stereotypical medical student on TV has some truth to it, it's definitely been way over exaggerated in my opinion. So just to summarise, I've made a few quick fire points of pros and cons to studying medicine at university as a course. So I'm going to start off with the disadvantages to studying medicine, and the first one I wrote down is that the application process is quite long. As you will probably already know, in the UK you have to sit a UK CAT exam before you apply, which is similar to a sort of IQ test, and you may also have to sit a BMAT exam depending on where you apply. So studying for those exams, I'll admit, is quite tricky, especially because some of the revision has to take place in the summer, because if I remember correctly, the exams have to be sat between August and October, which is obviously a challenge, and it can be really annoying, especially if you've got A-levels going on at the same time. Then after that, you have to focus on writing a personal statement, which can take loads of time in itself because you have to find a way to stand out from 1,000 different applicants, which unfortunately all have the same thing. So they all have the same grades, they all have the work experience, and so you need to try and not only formulate the personal statement to make it look good, but actually do things to actually put into the statement. And then after that, you've got the interviews, which again are quite stressful, especially in the middle of trying to revise for A-levels, because different universities have different interview styles, and again, training for those can be a bit of a nightmare. However, when you compare the gains to actually getting a place on medicine, all the pain of applying, I would say, is 100% worth it in the end, and it's really not something that should put you off applying. Number 2, I wrote down as it's expensive, and that is even more true if you are studying in London and living out. Obviously, I can only speak for London, but in London, the prices of everything are ridiculous. Everything is unnecessarily expensive, and it can be a struggle when you think about the amount of debt that you will be in at the end. Obviously, in the UK, we're fortunate enough to apply for loans, which will cover the cost of tuition completely, and you can also apply for a maintenance loan, which can help with living costs. Although in London, the maintenance loan will probably not even cover half of your living costs. Obviously, it differs depending on your circumstances, but for me, I remember when I lived in halls, the loan that I got just about covered half of my costs of rent, and that's not to include like living costs for food, going out, clothes, everything else. And so it is quite financially difficult. So when you think about the amount of debt that you'll be at the end, it can be off-putting, but also don't forget that loans do exist. And number 3, I've written down as it is difficult. There's no denying that there is a lot to learn, and the course is quite long for a reason. And it can be quite tricky to always keep on top of things, and so it's easy to get stressed really quickly. But as I said earlier, it's not anything that's impossible for anyone. On the plus side, I've written down a few positives to studying medicine. To start with, it's super interesting. The stuff that you learn on the course is surreal, and you get experiences that no one else on the planet is going to get. Like, for example, in my first year, we were really fortunate to have dissections of real cadavers every week, which, when you think about it, is just so insane. And you get to learn about the intricacies of the human body and so many systems, and without sounding like a nerd, it's all so fascinating. And so, although I did say that it is really difficult, it is 100% worth it for the experiences that you get as a student. And so your student experience is going to be like no one else's. And even if you're a person who's thinking that they enjoy science but don't really have a passion for it, which was me in secondary school, I think it's really hard not to like medicine once you've started it, because it's wow. Number 2, the opportunities after you graduate are limitless. I think I read somewhere that there's like over 60 different specialties. So there is something that you will find that you love. And so once you're a doctor, you're not just a doctor. Like, you've always got something to carry on doing, carry on striving for. And number 3, I wrote down, it's a privilege and a challenge. So as a medical student and as a doctor, you're going to be faced with new environments every single day. No 2 days are the same, no 2 patients are the same. And so if you're someone who thinks that the idea of being stuck in an office behind a desk can be quite boring, then medicine is great. And as students and as doctors, we're fortunate to be able to talk to so many different people, hear so many different stories. And so the thought of knowing that you're going to be able to help those people and potentially save lives one day is what I think makes medicine so worth it. And that concludes my first video. I hope it was useful to anyone who's thinking of applying to medicine. And I hope I've shown that it's not all doom and gloom like the rumours say sometimes, and that actually being a student medic is really fun. So, this is a bit weird, but give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and feel free to leave me any comments or suggestions for any future videos, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions and take on board any suggestions for next time. Hopefully see you soon. Bye!